Hello, my name is William Harris, Bill Harris, and I'm running for mayor in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I'm going to need a lot of help because the incumbent mayor, Lionel Jordan, is a terrific fellow, and he's done a terrific job. It's going to be really hard for me to fill his shoes, but our fair city has a tremendous professional staff, and with their help, I believe I can meet that high standard. Lionel has been in office for 3 4-year terms. That's 12 years. During those 12 years, many of our most brilliant citizens, including those from our University of Arkansas and from some of our local business giants, such as Tyson's and Walmart, have presented Lionel with wonderful municipal projects. And these people are capable of rounding up the technical details, the popular support, and the critical financing that it takes to get big things done. To Lionel's credit, we are doubling the size of our prize-winning municipal public library. It will soon be finished to cover 2 city blocks. And in this recent term of office, Lionel has seen the completion of a highway flyover exit ramp that diverts huge amounts of traffic from what was once the busiest intersection in the entire state of Arkansas. These are admirable accomplishments, but in the midst of these colossal projects, supported by that very reliable coterie of advisors, a huge portion of our citizenry has been neglected. I want Lionel to take a vacation. Let's call it a sabbatical. I want to attend to the needs of a wider range of our citizens, mostly with an array of smaller projects. While Lionel sits out for a term to relax, to travel the world and visit a variety of other cities, to enjoy some golf, some sailing, and some theater with his family. But I know that Lionel loves our fair city. I've seen tears in his eyes when he talks about Fayetteville. So when he returns, I want him to see how well his long-term dreams for Fayetteville have progressed without him. As you all know, that is one of the hallmarks of an excellent manager, for matters to be so well designed that they proceed without micromanagement. I think Lionel will be pleased. In the meantime, while I fill in for him during this coming term, I have some projects of my own. My largest concern is to build an Olympic-sized swimming pool in a location central to our middle schools. When I was a kid in the 1950s, my little town on the prairie in Oklahoma already had an Olympic-sized pool. The greatest generation, our parents, had come home from the war, grabbed their picks and shovels, dug the hole, laid the concrete form, and lined it all with pretty blue tiles. They built showers and locker rooms, installed the water treatment plumbing, and then they fenced it all in down by the riverbank. As I was growing up, that swimming pool was an important social center for us kids. We learned swimming and life-saving. We learned how to be decent and courteous to each other, wearing only our swimsuits. We learned to obey the rules, and we got to know each other from different schools before we all joined together in high school. Swimming pools are important for kids just coming of age, but my classmates didn't hear about free love until we were seniors in high school, after the events in Dallas. Today, with free love so entrenched in the social environment, a large central swimming pool might be even more important for our kids. There is another aspect of this that concerns me. As you know, our city council has recently declared racial prejudice to be a public health crisis in our fair city. I was surprised to hear that because all of the black people that I know seem to be getting plenty of respect. A few of my university professors, a lawyer, a doctor, a charitable foundations family, veterans and businessmen, city employees, and even the county judge, all of them admirable people beyond merely respectable. So I'm not so sure about that public health crisis. But I know one way to find out. According to my Black Studies courses, the construction of large public swimming pools pretty much ground to a halt after desegregation in the 1950s and 60s. If racism really is a public health crisis in Fayetteville, then we probably are not ready to build a large public swimming pool for our kids. But if Fayetteville really is the advanced community that it should be, then all of our kids should be able to enjoy a central swimming pool, just as I enjoyed when I was a kid. Actually, there should be no excuse for us not to have one. If we have a public health crisis, federal tax dollars can probably be recovered to build a pool. I'm sorry to play that race card on you. Please don't think I'm being pushy, but I just can't help wondering if a swimming pool would reveal a crisis or no crisis at all. Our only public city swimming pool, by the way, is at Wilson Park, an isolated neighborhood near the university. Maybe we should settle for the private and semi-private pools that already dot our city. Maybe we should play it safe. This is something our people will need to decide. Right now, I just want to open the conversation. There are other things that concern me for our city, nothing else quite so large. I'd like to see some small library annexes at the north end of town and on the east and west sides of town. I think we've all noticed that most of our advanced cultural facilities are concentrated at the south end of town. The huge public library, the town center, the Walton Arts Center, and many smaller facilities. Meanwhile, the north end and east side are growing healthy businesses, and the west side is a booming residential area with its own local business growth. I want a business-oriented annex on the north end near the mall, maybe even inside the mall, with business information resources, a basic law library, and a variety of meeting rooms. I wonder if an annex on the east side should be oriented to younger kids, toddlers, and grade schoolers. And on the west side, where the Boys and Girls Club offers terrific amenities for kids, I'm not sure what kind of focus an annex should have. The fact is, these library annexes are wide open to discussion. Once people get involved, we are sure to find plenty of experts and plenty of volunteers. Another issue that troubles me is the free and easy flow of traffic, especially on the south end around the university and the so-called entertainment district. That includes our sophisticated cultural venues like Walton Arts, mostly available to the mature set earlier in the evening, and later in the evening, well into the night, our taverns and food venues for the university kids. The problem that annoys me is this. We have been too quick to obstruct the flow of traffic, both for special events and for daily traffic control. Now look, there is a perceived need for us to revitalize the old downtown area around the town square. On that basis, we are leaning toward closing the streets into a walkable outdoor mall. That is unnecessary and it won't work. What we need most of all around that university is free-flowing traffic in every direction. The slow street program is an annoying encumbrance. Those crosswalk signs in the middle of the streets are an obstacle for buses, trucks, fire engines, and ambulances. That safety message can be conveyed without those obstacles. Closing off streets for 2 or 3 days of bicycle racing or foot racing in this busy entertainment district is counterproductive to the goal of revitalization. Those events can be held in more appropriate locations, probably using our well-developed system of bike trails and walking trails. Do you remember the redesign of Block Avenue just north of the town square? The engineers neglected to account for the width of a fire engine, and those couple of blocks had to be redesigned all over again. That's horrible, so wasteful. What on earth is it that we are trying so desperately to do? On College Avenue in the 400 North block, the turn lane has been filled in with a median planted in trees and shrubs. The left turn into a church driveway is blocked off, but the left turn into a law office driveway is still open. That makes me wonder, But I won't go into that, not right now. That median limits the flow of turning traffic at a busy intersection, College and Lafayette. And the median serves as a halfway point for jaywalkers. Jaywalking is dangerous, and it should not be facilitated. On the town square, planters full of tall foliage obstruct the view around corners at stop signs. That should never happen. And the paid parking meter situation is a mystery to visitors and an insult to our residents and businesses. But the free and easy flow of traffic is not my only concern. Quickly now, I hope that businesses can put their invested resources to work without waiting for clearance from the city. I'm not privy to many of the necessary permits, but we all know that they are there. From food regulations to trees and animals and driveways, anything can be subject to regulation. People need to be able to get things done without waiting in line to jump through too many hoops. I feel like our city staff is professional enough to accommodate businesses sensibly, but this is something that I will want to watch carefully. I want our city council meetings to be open to a dialogue with the public. Make no mistake, Mayor Jordan and the city council have given us heroic hours to hear our opinions on several controversial issues. Guns, homosexuality, racism, our creek banks, and the list goes on. Lionel and the aldermen have stayed up with us through the night into the wee morning hours to give us all a chance to speak and be heard. There is only one thing that bothers me. In my limited experience with this, it seems that we may only speak our monologues. There is no dialogue, no exchange of questions and answers. Our questions will be noted, but we don't get timely answers. I realize that some questions cannot be readily answered without some careful reference, but other questions can be, and our aldermen, our mayor, and their staff should be able to lay some of the simplest matters to rest on the spot. I hope that as your next mayor, I will quickly become prepared enough to respond to most of your simplest questions. I really cannot imagine myself serving for 12 years without being so prepared. In fact, I can't imagine serving more than one single term. 4 years will be plenty for me. And that brings me to my closing aspirations. You see, just like Lionel, I have a dream for Fayetteville. I look back on the ancient city of Athens and how it changed the course of mankind. With new ideas put into practice and expressed so vividly, we all know that Athens set a course that we still follow. I am firmly convinced that Jesus, the Nazarene, was well studied in matters of Greek thought as well as Jewish thought. And it was no accident that the church flourished in that Athenian heritage. And here we have our own fair city of Fayetteville, sitting in the heartland of America, the most blessed of all nations, and further blessed with a university far greater than most of us are aware, and enriched with the bounty of some of the largest and most consequential business giants in the world. Not only have we drawn some of the greatest minds, the greatest talents to our Northwest Arkansas region, but remember, those great businesses were built in their beginnings by the honest, hardworking, and dependable people who were already here. There is a perfect storm for a leadership into the future that can rival the leadership of Athens, and we are sitting in the eye of that storm. My dream for Fayetteville is built upon the ruins of a nightmare that struck our nation, indeed that struck the whole world decades ago. And I fell into that nightmare as if my Lord Jesus had dropped me into the eye of another storm. Beginning with the events in Dallas, you know what I mean, that sudden act of terror and all that followed, our great nation was trapped, caught up in a cultural revolution that lasted nearly 20 years. A violent communist homegrown revolution financed by drugs, enforced by the mafia, and supported by one of our major political parties. But that was then. Be careful, don't jump to conclusions. Politics can get complicated and not everything or everyone is what they appear to be. Here I am running for mayor with a dream for our fair city, but I have spent 20 years in jail, and I am proud of it. If I had to do it again to accomplish the same result, I would. I'm absolutely sure that I would serve those years again if that were what we needed. I served 6 years in jail for what we did in Columbus, Ohio, when we tried to prevent President Nixon from visiting that city, shortly after the Kent State tragedies. It was terrible. It was violent and dangerous, and I deserved much worse than 6 years, and I am ashamed of what we did. But I was lucky, actually blessed. I survived, and so did everyone else. And by the way, President Nixon came to visit Columbus as planned, on schedule. Another 6 years after that, I challenged the leadership of the revolution with an alternate strategy for their success, hoping to reduce the hardships that the revolution was inflicting on so many people. Curiously, the leadership was unhappy with my impudence. Who would ever have guessed? And after a few months of delicate negotiation, I was lured away to test my notions in Columbus, Ohio, of all places. After a few more months, I discovered that they had done something back home to embarrass me. It was pretty serious. Not as bad as years before, but bad enough. So, I gathered up my resolve and I rolled over on them. I turned in a long list of names to assist President Reagan's resistance effort, and by doing so I became a member of his Teflon team. That little trick cost me another 14 years in jail. But President Reagan promptly shut down the revolution. I can remember the day when they stopped burning the American flag. Suddenly, they stood up to salute the flag along with everyone else, just as if nothing had ever happened. The Teflon case is still good, but that list of names, our assets, is growing old, retiring, and many of them have already died. So, after operating the case covertly for the past 35 years or so, since 1983, the time has come to share that case with the public so that its potence will never fail. For that reason, I've written my confessions, my testimony, and my indictment of that revolution in this little book entitled 1983, The Teflon Tales. You can click to this book in print or in ebook format from my Twitter site at 1983teflon. You can also click to some other videos that explain why this problem won't go away. And that brings us back to my dream for the leadership of Fayetteville. Beyond all of this politics and all of these challenges to our traditional values and our religious beliefs, beyond all of that, there is a philosophy of governance that is the driving force behind all of these troubles. It's called secular humanism. It's about 100 years old in the formal sense. It was inspired by the hopelessness of World War I. In turn, it has inspired Bolshevism, Nazism, Fascism, and the bully ways of the shoguns in Japan, and later of Chairman Mao in China. And in our own country, that cultural revolution in which I participated. Now, in order for us to ever defeat the onslaughts of secular humanism, we're going to have to offer its adherents something better, a better idea that will achieve the necessary results without all of those terrible hardships. I believe that Fayetteville, our fair city, is capable of leading the world in that way. We are the right people in the right place at the right time. We can introduce to the world a whole new philosophy of governance, which I call faith-based humanics. And we can begin the implementation of our faith-based humanics by emphasizing truth, choice, and responsibility. That is the real reason I am running for mayor. Give me 4 years and you can change the world as surely as Athens did. And when Lionel returns from his sabbatical, he will be proud of what we have begun. Thank you for visiting my Twitter site and my YouTube site, and for indulging me with this video. I hope to serve you as mayor in the wonderful manner to which you have become accustomed.